One of the reasons we feel so guilty about our parenting and so worried about it, every little decision that we make, and really worried about the teenage years.
How can we get over the guilt and into just being proactive or just giving ourselves some grace?
Nothing makes us more insecure than being a parent. We should not be teaching our boys to do something as a child that could end up landing them in jail as an adult. We are judged so harshly by society based on our children, right? So it's very normal for us to feel that way.
Hi and welcome to the show. This is your host Orion. Thank you so much for being here. As a parent myself, I always seek guidance. I always feel like I can do better. And so I learn from the best, learn from experts. And the biggest lesson I think I need to learn is to just trust my gut, trust my intuition, and trust that even when I don't perform as the perfect mom or does everything perfect, I should be okay with my perfect imperfection and knowing that my child is safe and loved, because that's what I do most of the time. Give him love, nurture him, try to do the best I can, but we're all human, right? But there's always this little voice in my head of, oh gosh, I can always do better. And we can always do better and we can always learn, especially with a firstborn. You know, we learn everything with our firstborn. So as a part of my quest to learn more and to also help you with your parenting skills, I invited Kasey Edwards on the show. She's a researcher and author of 10 books, including Raising Girls Who Like Themselves, Bringing Up Boys Who Like Themselves, and Goodbye Good Girl, and Hello Me. Her work has been read by over 10 million worldwide, and she is a passionate champion for women and children. So we talked about all that. We talked about how to make your kid feel more secure. We talked about the struggles of parenting, and I think it will light up your day and give you some tools on your parenting journey. And now, without further ado, on to the show. Hey, Kasey, and welcome to the show. Thank you so much for being here.
Orion, it is such a pleasure to talk to you. Thank you so much for having me on your show.
Yeah, I'm very excited. Before we begin, I would like to know your core story and how did you start that journey of becoming that expert that you are today?
Okay, so I am the author of two parenting books that I co-wrote with my husband, Raising Girls Who Like Themselves and Bringing Up Boys Who Like Themselves. And my husband, Dr. Christopher Scanlon, and I, when we first had our daughter, so she's now almost 16, we felt so ill-equipped to be the parents that she needed us to be. And we're both researchers and writers. So we decided that we were going to research how to be the best parents we could be. And for me, Orion, I was really motivated by this really deep sense of growing up, never feeling like I was enough. And I carried that throughout my whole life, and I knew other women around me didn't like themselves very much either. So my goal was to work out how could I raise my daughter to like herself? Because I knew that if I just raised her the way I was raised and the way other girls were being raised, then we were going to get the same outcome. And I was going to also raise a girl who had a deep sense of inadequacy. So Chris and I spent 10 years researching that project, and we created our own framework to raise our own daughter that way. And everything is evidence-based and everything is achievable in a complex, busy life. And we put it into the book, Raising Girls Who Like Themselves. And then on the very day that it came out, people started saying, well, what about boys? Shouldn't they too? I was like, yes, of course. It was just we'd focused on girls because we were the parents of girls. So then we turned our attention to researching bringing up boys who like themselves. And yeah, so we've got those two books. And I've just released this year a book called Goodbye Good Girl, Hello Me. And that's actually my own journey of reparenting myself, because as I did the research for raising girls who like themselves, I could identify all the reasons that I didn't like myself. And it was like being a fish swimming in water. Like I didn't see what it was that I believed about myself that stopped me from feeling enough. But because I was looking at it as a researcher and looking at raising my daughter rather than looking at myself, it all became so clear. So then I've also written a memoir on how I have unpicked all of those good girl beliefs and created new ones.
That's amazing. So I'd like to like wow, I wanna learn everything about everything you you just mentioned. So let's start with girls, move to boys, and go into us, the parents. Um, as a mom, I always have this guilt that I'm not doing enough, or like other moms might be doing this better, or if something happened to my son, I go and I'm like, oh, it's my fault. It's my fault he's like that. Um, so first of all, actually, let's start with parent guilt. How can we get over the guilt and into just being proactive, or just giving ourselves some grace?
I think, nothing makes us more insecure than being a parent. And the reason it makes us so insecure is because we love so much and care so much, and we want to do the very best job that we can. If we didn't care so much, we wouldn't be so worried about the job that we're doing, right? But I think that something that became so clear to me in our research was one of the reasons we feel so guilty about our parenting and so worried about it, every little decision that we make, and really worried about the teenage years, is because we have been sold this lie that it is our job to create a perfect childhood. And by that, I mean that our children are never upset and they never struggle, and that they're going to give us a gold star when they turn 18 and look back at on our parenting and said, yes, I was happy the whole time, you did a good job, right? It's like we're expecting some performance review. But that is not our job as parents. Our job is to raise functioning adults who don't need us. And part of being a functional adult in the world is learning to deal with struggle, learning to deal with things that don't go your way. So we need to shift our focus from never having a child upset to focusing on raising a child who is independent and resilient. But the other thing is, and this is one of the pillars, we talk about 7 foundational pillars that a child needs to like themselves. And this is the same for both boys and girls. It is the last pillar, and it is authenticity. A child who likes themselves must be allowed to be themselves, to grow up into the very best version of the person that they choose to be, not the one that we choose for them. And we talk about stone parenting and seed parenting. And there's so much pressure in today's society for us to be stone parents. And that is the idea of we have a vision of what the perfect child is like. And we think it's our job as a parent to chip away at them and create this perfect child. And then we'll get all this external validation. Society will approve. We'll feel like we've done a good job. But the problem is that's our vision of them and not their own vision. So what we need to be is seed parents. And this is the idea that our children are this beautiful, precious, unique seed. And we don't know how they're going to bloom. And we don't know when they're going to bloom. But that's not our job. That's their job. Our job is to create the right environment, the love, the nurture, the boundaries, and the support. And then to stand back in wonder and love the child that we have, not the one we thought we needed to create.
Yeah, it's about, I know, I get that as a mom. It's about losing um the need to control, and also the need, like, we validate ourselves through our kids. If my kid is good, then other people will think I'm good. It's not even about the kid, it's about us. So it's about our own childhood wounding that we are I guess inflicting upon our children, where we need to heal our need for validation so we can model it to our kids, and then we won't have to put them in that same trap generation to come.
Yeah, which I mean, it's such a difficult thing to do, particularly for mothers, right? Because we are judged so harshly by society based on our children, right? So it's very normal for us to feel that way. Um, but yeah, it's about working out what's our child's job and what's our job. So just one other thing, if I can add there, Orion, that the things, something that can really help us release the guilt is that it's really very simple what our children need from us most. And it's the same thing that we all need most. Our children need to be seen, accepted, and loved for who they are in this moment. They don't want to have to win the race, pass the test, lose weight, hang out with the popular kids. They want to be enough right now. And their self-worth is reflected back to them through us. So when we look at them and we see the beautiful, unique person that they are and see that they're enough right now, then they will feel that.
Yeah. What does it mean for a child to really like themselves? How do you know if they do?
I think first of all, you have to be able to be yourself without constantly deferring to external measures. So what particularly girls and particularly women as we grow up is that a lot of the rules that we get that are taught to us to be good girls and good women rely on external measures. You'll be good enough if everybody else likes you. So that's an external measure. You'll be good enough if you're beautiful. Beauty is an external measure. It's something that someone else decides. You'll be good enough if you get a mark. You'll be good enough if you lose weight. You'll be good enough if you're chosen by a man. All of these things rely on someone else or an external measure. And if you are relying on external things to like yourself, you will, by definition, be insecure. So a fundamental part of learning to like yourself is what we call in our book a power perspective. And this is the idea of learning how to think in a way that works for you rather than against you. That you can't always control the events in your life, but you can control the way you think about them, the stories you tell about them, and the next action that you take. And just a really simple tweak that every parent can use to teach their child that their opinion about themselves matters more than anyone else's is what we call flipping praise. Now, our children will come to us about 6,000 times in their childhood asking for praise. Do you like my somersault? Do you like my drawing? Do you like my dress? That's 6,000 times. We can very subtly teach them that what they think matters most. So instead of just giving your opinion freely, and what we do when we praise them straight out is implicitly teach them that our opinion matters more than theirs, that we are the judge of their drawing and their somersault. So instead of doing that, just take a moment and say, well, it's your work. So I'm really interested in what you think. You tell me what you think. So that's called flipping praise. And it doesn't take any more time, right? Because we're all busy, okay? You just flip it, and 6,000 times in their life, they will learn that they are the person whose opinion about them matters the most.
Right. I know that I learned that that trick or and I find myself saying, like, he shows me something, I'm like, oh, it's so pretty. What do you think about it?
Yes. Well, because we say, I mean, also everything that our kids do, we think's amazing, right? So the words fall out of our mouth. But yeah, it's all about, flipping the praise so they get to understand that they get to be the judge. And if they like it, then you reinforce that and say, well, that's fantastic because it's your work, so you get to decide. If they don't like it, well, then you can say, well, let's talk about what you'd like to do next time.
Mm. What do parents do that can destroy demolish a kid's self-esteem unintentionally.
Yeah, of course. And all of this is unintentional, right? Because we are all doing the very best job that we can do. And also, I think there's a lot of myths out there on how to build children's self-worth. And one particularly for girls is about beauty. We think that a girl, in order to like herself, needs to believe that she is beautiful. And the advice that parents get is that we should tell our children over and over again that they're beautiful. And then one day they'll believe it, and then they'll have high self esteem, and then they'll like themselves. Now, that was done to us, Orion, wasn't it? So people in our lives have told us that we're beautiful. Advertising campaigns tell us we're beautiful. Social media, there's memes all the time saying that we should love the skin we're in, right? But most women's body image is not great. And the reason is, if you tell a girl over and over again that she is beautiful, she will naturally believe it is the most important thing about her. So a girl will receive more compliments about her appearance than everything else combined. So she will believe that her beauty defines her worth in the world. And then she will go out into a world where she will never be beautiful enough. It is simply not possible to be beautiful enough in today's world. We interviewed two supermodels who had terrible body images. And I remember thinking, well, if you're not beautiful enough, what hope do the rest of us have? But as I said, beauty is an external measure, right? So people will take it away. So we're setting our children up to fail when they build their identity on beauty that other people control. So we need to build our children's identity on things that they can control, things that can't be taken away from them, like their creativity and their character and their kindness and their persistence and their humor. So one thing that we can do to reverse the damage of building a girl, and increasingly boys too, identity on their appearance, is dial down the beauty comments. So, and talk more about what your child does and thinks and who they are. So when we were researching raising girls who like themselves, we found women, there wasn't many of them, we called them our unicorns, who had really positive body images, who just did not worry about how they looked and whether or not they were being judged for how they look, and they didn't think about their weight. They just lived their lives. And I remember feeling so envious of these women to have all this headspace free, that they weren't, constantly critiquing how they looked. All of those women had one thing in common. They all grew up in families that did not care about beauty.
Mm. But we do care about beauty. Like, I care about beauty. I keep telling my son, I'm like, oh, you're so handsome. I'm like, oh my God. I shower him with compliments, and I know I've been told like this is wrong. Like, from not specifically me, but parenting experts are like, don't compliment them on their beauty, don't compliment them on your appearance. But how do you even do it? It feels like not genuine. If I see that he's like dressed up and he's so cute, I'm like, oh, you're so cute. You're so like, how can I not? I just have to stop myself. What's the balance here?
Yeah, I mean, in our family, we made a rule that we would not talk about how bodies looked at all, good or bad. That was our rule. And the reason for that is because my body image was terrible. I grew up in a family that was so focused on beauty, and I was weighed when I was a child and told I wouldn't get a husband if I put on weight. So body image was such a big deal for me, and I didn't want my girls to think that they owed the world beauty. I didn't want them to think that I cared. So my girls know that I think they're beautiful. They just know I don't care about it. Of all the things that I love and value about them, beauty's not even on the list. Now, I know my approach is really extreme, but as I said in the interviews I did, one of the unicorns, she said to me, I can't recall a single time when my parents told me that I was beautiful. They just didn't. They didn't care about how I looked. They cared about whether or not I tried. Because trying is something that children can control. Beauty is not. So beauty actually disempowers our children, because they're dependent on you to decide whether or not they are. And you will decide that your boy's beautiful because you love him and you have his best interests at heart. But when he goes out into the world, he's going to face people who will not think that he is beautiful. And particularly for girls, every single woman is going to have beauty taken away from them. So if they think that their identity is based on being beautiful, they will not be able to like themselves.
So what do you praise your daughters for?
For repeatable behaviors, for trying things that are hard, for displaying kindness, for being funny. So when we praise our children for things that they can control and do again, we are empowering them because then they can decide to do that anytime they want. And it also builds positive behavior. Whereas if you so beauty we've covered, but same as if you praise your child for being smart. Well, smart isn't something a child can control either. If you praise your child for getting good marks at school, working hard can help, but they don't actually always control those marks. If you praise them for trying hard, for making a mistake, learning from it and doing it again, then those are the attributes that build real self-esteem and self-belief.
I feel like the damage is done already. Where am I going from here?
No, look, I reparented myself when I was 40. We can change these things if we decide to. I think also particularly for body image, because it's such a difficult issue for women to deal with, because most of us have been scarred very badly from society and from our own families.
Mm-hmm.
But if we decide today that our girls are not going to learn body insecurity, or our boys, from our mouths, if we make that decision today, then our children will have so many more opportunities to build a positive body image than we ever did. So tomorrow can be a new page in your child's life.
Yeah, I'll do my best. I always do my best, and then I don't think that I do my best. And at the end of the day, we do what we can, right? We learn all this information, but sometimes I am pretty sure that a lot of "you're so cute, you're handsome, you're smart" is gonna come out of my mouth, and I'm like, but what about, is there a benefit to tell them that, or it's all negative?
Look, if your child grows up in a family that really values beauty and you don't tell them that they're beautiful, then that is going to be a problem, right? But if you grow up in a family that doesn't value beauty, then it doesn't matter. So for example, if when I was a child said, "You really suck at chess, you're really bad at chess," right? It wouldn't affect my identity or my self-worth, because I haven't based myself and my value on whether or not I play chess. My family doesn't value whether I play chess. So our children are going to judge themselves on the things that we teach them to value. And it can be damaging if we teach them to value themselves on things they can't control.
Right. Yeah, I totally get it. So you wrote the book about girls and you wrote the book about boys. What's the difference in research between boys and girls?
Yeah. So because Chris and we have girls, we've got two girls, because we don't have boys, we asked 15,000 parents what their biggest concern was.
That's it? 15,000. Wow.
Yes, and it was so amazing, Orion, the similarities in the responses. And what came back was the number one concern was that parents did not want to raise their boy to be tough. They worried about raising their boy to be tough, but they worried even more about raising their boy to be weak. And they worried that if they didn't make him tough, he would be weak. And nobody wants their boy to be the one who gets slammed up against the locker or kicked in the stomach at lunchtime. So we spent a lot of time researching that problem. And I have some really good news for boy parents. You don't have to choose between tough and weak, because Weak is actually a consequence of tough. And I'll tell you what I mean. So what we need to do instead is strong. And we need to raise strong boys. And strong boys are very different from tough boys. Strong boys have strength of character. Now, a tough boy, for example, we teach tough boys to never show vulnerability. We teach them to never show weakness, to never back away from a fight. Well, if you can't back away from a fight, then you are not very strong, are you? Because someone else is controlling your behavior. The person who starts the fight has controlled you. So that's actually weak. If you can't admit that you'd made a mistake, then you cannot have a meaningful relationship with someone, because everybody in life makes mistakes, and we all need to own the impact of our mistakes if we want to reconcile and have meaningful and intimate relationships. If we raise boys to never admit that they make mistakes, never apologize, we are denying them the opportunity of having meaningful relationships. That is also making them brittle. And what it also does is we see with boys and men who have been raised to be tough is that they cannot handle difficult feelings and their frustration. They can't handle embarrassment. So what they do is they offload their emotions with aggression or violence. They avoid their emotions by just not trying. And we hear this a lot. People say, my boy's lazy. There is no such thing as a laziness gene. It's a boy who is afraid of the feeling of doing something hard and of failing. And we know that boys who are raised to be tough, who do not have the strength of character to deal with their emotions properly, will not be able to reach their potential. Because in order to reach your potential in life, you have to get negative feedback, and it doesn't feel good. But we need to be able to teach our kids to handle those negative feelings and that emotion so they can learn from their mistakes and reach excellence or succeed in life. But the really good news is the key to strength of character is what we call emotional bravery. And the way that you build emotional bravery is the first step is simply naming it. The research shows that if you accurately name the emotion that you're feeling, and it has to be accurate, you go most of the way to resolving it. And women know this instinctively. When we catch up with friends after we've had a difficult day or a fight with our partner or whatever, and we tell them about our problems, we call a friend, what we are doing is accurately naming what we are feeling to a safe person. And then we walk away feeling better, right? But very often, boys are not encouraged to name their emotions, and they can only name 3: happy, sad, angry. That's not enough. You have to accurately name them. So what we have in our book, and I'll give you a handout if you like for your listeners. It's called an emotion wheel. Print it out, put it on your refrigerator. So when your boy comes home and he's angry, is he angry or is he jealous or is he lonely? And you encourage him to name that emotion. And that, in many cases, parents fear that boys get angry. They're worried about their boy's anger. If he can name his emotion to a safe person, that will cut the anger off in many cases before it escalates. But the important part is it has to be a safe person, which means we as parents have to be okay with whatever emotion our children are expressing and whatever they're telling us. If we shut them down, if we laugh at them, if we minimize them or gaslight them, we're not going to be the safe person that they need us to be.
That's amazing. I love that, naming the emotions. Also, how do you go about even explaining the emotions, like explaining jealousy, explaining some more complex emotions?
Yeah. So, one thing to do is model it. Particularly for boys, we need to model apologizing. We need to model failure. Many boys do not have a role model in their life who apologizes because in previous generations, men were taught that men don't apologize. So they've never actually seen a man own the impact of his actions. They've never seen dad fail. So to talk about failure and how they've struggled and overcome and succeeded are really good stories to have in the home. But also you can just catch your child in the moment. If they don't get invited to the birthday party, instead of trying to fix it, calling the other parent, that's an opportunity to go, gosh, you must be feeling really left out right now. Or when friends are away, on holidays and they're at home by themselves, are you feeling lonely right now? And so we can just, in everyday language, increase our boys' vocabulary and our girls, but often it happens naturally with girls anyway, because the research shows we do speak more about emotions to girls, and girls have more role models of people who express their emotions. So particularly with boys, that is absolutely the key to raising a strong boy.
How do you teach your child to stand for themselves?
Okay, well, I'm going to share a really good technique with you. So the other thing I want to say is what we got back from boy parents was that they didn't know whether or not they should teach their boy to punch, to stand up for himself by using violence. Now, they didn't think it was a good idea to use violence, but they also, as I said before, they didn't want their boy to be weak. They saw that he was getting bullied at school and they didn't know what to do. Now, the first thing I want to say is we should not be teaching our boys to do something as a child that could end up landing them in jail as an adult, because we will be creating patterns of behavior that could ruin their lives, right? So anyone who is encouraging their boys to punch that is an extremely risky strategy, because if he does that when he is 20, he could end up in jail or he could ruin someone else's life and his own. The research also shows that physical violence, punching, does not have the outcome that parents think it does. The kids who punch have their greater chance of being bullied again and more severely. We also know that boys who use physical violence are more likely to end up later in life with addictions, more likely to be in car accidents, and more likely to have broken relationships.
My goodness.
It's a really bad strategy to encourage your boy at 7 to punch back because he's being picked on at lunchtime. But the good news is it's much better to use the right words rather than a right hook. And the research is quite compelling on this. It's a comeback statement. And what it is when your child is being picked on or bullied at school, they need one statement, and they need to practice it with you at home because delivery is really important. And it needs to be a statement that lets the other child know that they have seen what the child has done and they are not okay with it. Now, it has to be a statement, not a question. And it also has to not get them in trouble. So if a teacher hears them say it, they have to not get in trouble. So it can't be rude or aggressive or a swear word. And the research shows that is the most effective way to stop bullying. So, for example, a quick comeback could be, my daughter's was seriously, or that's not cool, or good on you. But it has to be something that your child picks so that they can say it with confidence. And when they are picked on, they deliver their quick comeback and they walk away. And that lets the other child know, I saw what you did, I'm not okay with it. So this is also important for girls, because very often we tell girls, just ignore it. Do you really want to make such a big deal out of this? That corrodes your self-worth, because if you don't stand up for yourself, it's really hard to believe that you're worth it. So girls, just as much as boys, should be using this quick comeback statement. And I heard from a mother just the other day, her boy was getting elbowed in the stomach 3 times a day because they had to stand up in line to go into class 3 times a day. And he didn't want to go to school because there was a kid in front of them who in front of him who was elbowing him in the stomach. And so we taught him the quick comeback line. He did it once, and the kid in front of him was really surprised. And then at the next time he elbowed him again, tried at lunchtime, and the child gave his quick comeback. And that was it. The child stopped. And it didn't happen again. And the last thing I heard from the mother was that child was now being really nice to her son. So there are times when parents absolutely have to get involved with bullying. But wherever possible, we need to be teaching our children that they are capable of standing up for themselves, and that we believe that they can do it, right? And that is a really effective technique to use, not just in childhood, but also in adulthood. Particularly women can really struggle with standing up for ourselves.
I like that. Next time somebody annoys me, I'll be like, seriously? That's awesome.
But the important thing is that you must practice it with your child, because they need to deliver it in the heat of the moment, and they need to deliver it with authority.
That's amazing. So when you talk to parents, what do you feel like parents struggle with the most with raising confident kids?
I think one of the things, so body image is a problem. Another thing that we often get wrong is our generation. So when I grew up, the research and the common belief and the advice for parents was that we build our children's self-esteem with words, that we tell our kids that they're wonderful and awesome and smart and clever and the best, and then that will give them self-esteem. Often what that does is just give children imposter syndrome, right? You do not build self-esteem from word presence. In fact, we cannot give our children self-esteem. We can't buy it. We can't say it. We can't give it. Self-esteem grows from within, and it grows from the fertile soil of independence and mastery. So the children who really believe in themselves, who have high self-esteem, are the children who can do life. Now, that doesn't mean they win every race and have a cabinet full of trophies. It means that in day-to-day interactions, they know that they can handle themselves and that they can do things for themselves. And this is something that Chris and I got really wrong as first-time parents, because we don't like to see our children struggle. It's actually really hard to watch our children struggle. But if our children don't struggle, they don't learn mastery, and they don't learn self-esteem. So, for example, our first daughter, when she was in the playground and the playground equipment was too hard for her and she would struggle and get frustrated, we would come over and we would lift her up, because we didn't want to see our little girl unhappy. And we actually taught her to be helpless. We got to the point where when she was in front of something hard in the playground, she'd turn around to us and put her arms up. And so that's what we did. We taught her to not even try for herself and not believe that she could accomplish things herself. By the time our second daughter came along, Ivy, that was 5 years later, and we were 5 years into our research, and we knew that children had to build self-worth from mastery and independence. So we left Ivy to navigate the playground on her own. And when she was frustrated, we would talk to her, validate her feelings. Yes, it is frustrating. We problem solved with her. Maybe you could climb up the climbing frame another way. Why don't you try the other side? And I remember one day when she climbed up on that climbing frame all by herself, and the look of pride on her face, the self-worth, the self-esteem took my breath away. And I realized that every time I had rushed in to rescue my older daughter so she didn't have to struggle, I was denying her the life-affirming feeling of self-worth and mastery. So the rule that we recommend for parents, is only do for your child what they cannot do for themselves. Everything else, whether they want to or not, is about us saying to them, I believe you can do it.
Is it possible to create situations for our kids that will help them master something or feel like they have mastery for something?
Yeah, so first of all, just everyday life. Let them tie their own shoelaces, let them feed themselves, let them speak for themselves. That is a really important one. We interviewed a school principal who did the intake interviews of 4-year-olds, and he could tell at 4 which kids were going to thrive socially and academically at school based on whether or not the parents allowed the child to speak for themselves. And so the child didn't have to say anything in really like even a full sentence, but just the fact that the parent allowed the child to speak for themselves was an indication of their mastery to come. But in terms of helping our child achieve goals and work towards things, it is a myth that we build grit by forcing our children to do things that they don't want to do. Now, I'm not talking about, life, carrying your own school bag, cleaning your bedroom, eating, or whatever. I'm talking about forcing your child to play the violin if they hate it. We think that if we make our kids do something that they hate, we're going to teach them grit and perseverance and how to succeed in life. That is not what the research shows. That teaches them to hate what they're doing, to give it up as soon as they can, right? And to also not get any intrinsic motivation or joy. The way that we build grit and achievement focused children is to support them in pursuing a goal that they choose and encourage them to do the hard bits of that goal. So, for example, if your child wants to be a horse rider, they have to shovel the manure. So, in order to do the good bit that they really want to do, they have to do the hard, yucky bits they don't want to do. And the way we build grit in our children is supporting them to do the difficult tasks in pursuit of the goal that they choose.
Yeah. In my case, it's picking up Legos. So many Legos. The whole place is full of Legos, but he's like a little Lego master, this one. He's so beautiful. Like the things he creates are amazing. So when I think personally about my son, I know that he struggles with losing and he struggles with thinking that he's not the best. So how can you get him out of that? How can I get him out of that?
So, with losing, learning to lose is actually a skill. So we had our daughter was struggling with losing, so um, we actually played poker with her, not with money, just with chips, because we knew she would lose, and we let her feel the emotion of losing. It's okay to be upset. It's okay to be disappointed. But if we rush in, and I see this in children's sport a lot, our kids will be disappointed that they lost and we'll go, oh, the other team cheated or the referee wasn't fair. What we're doing is denying our children the opportunity of learning that they can cope with the difficult feeling of losing. And the most successful people in life are not the ones who never lose. They're not the ones who never fail. They're the ones who fail and can endure the discomfort of failure and get up and try again.
Yeah, I like it. And what about not feeling like he's the number one? Like sometimes if another child gets compliments, he thinks that he's less than because he didn't get that compliment.
Yeah. So holistically, change your focus of praise on trying rather than achieving. So then he's not measuring his self-worth by a fixed measure. So if he doesn't win or he doesn't get something that another child got, he can learn that if he tried, the thing that you value is that he tried, that he did something hard, that he was creative. So put all your focus on the thing that he can control, and then he will always be a success. The other thing is these are also skills, right? Like you can teach your child over time to think like this. And I also encourage children to congratulate and be happy for other children's success. Model that, because what we want our children to know is that they don't need to take out of someone else's bucket in order to fill their own bucket. And so that when someone in my daughter's school wins an award that she wanted or a role that she wanted, I will talk to her about, I know it's disappointing and it really hurts, doesn't it, to be that disappointed, but let's also be happy for your friend and let's go and congratulate them.
Mm. Yeah, yeah. We started playing games where I'm like, listen, I had the same conversation with him, and then he kind of like forced himself to come and give me a hug when he loses. But now it's much easier for him, I noticed. And yeah, I get it. I used to, you know, I had this child after so much struggle, and I'm like, oh my God, my gift from God, the thing that I cherish the most in the world. How can I put him in a bubble wrap and protect him from everything? And I had to learn the hard way that, hey, I can't protect him from everything. And when I protect him from everything, I rob his lessons. And in Kabbalah, it's called bread of shame, when you give somebody something without them even trying to get it, because it's way more damaging. It's like giving a 15-year-old the Porsche, without them even like working for that. So it's a really, I feel like it's a very spiritual path to be a parent and learn all these things. And also everything that's happening with our kids is such a beautiful mirror into our own internal world, internal struggles. I feel like I grew up as a person so much, and as a woman, just because I had this beautiful child of mine, that taught me so many things. He's seriously one of my greatest teachers. It's unbelievable.
That's beautiful, isn't it? To see that as opportunities for us to grow, because then we can give ourselves grace when we make mistakes, right?
Yeah, and when we heal spiritually, our kids are inside our aura until age 13, and they are connected to us. And when we heal something within ourselves, we heal our lineage, not only our parents, but also our children. And it's like when I was struggling, I went to a healer, and she's like, okay, you want to heal this in him, but we have to heal this in you, because when you're healed, it's going to affect him. When you liberate yourself, it's going to liberate him. So it's been such an amazing journey of growing up, actually, having this child.
Well, it's so wonderful for you to have the humility to do that, because it can be quite painful, can't it, to look into yourself and see what you need to heal in order to be the mother that your child needs you to be.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, thank you so much. This was amazing. I can speak with you for another 4 hours if we had that time. If you want to come back on the show, talk a little bit more on this will be amazing. Um, and before we say goodbye for now, uh, what are your top tips to living a stellar life? And number two is, where can people find you?
Okay, my top tips is, I talk about this in all of my books, and it's particularly the case, I think, for mothers. Prioritize friendship. We often think that friendship as we get older, first of all, for children, friendship is a skill. The children who have the best friendships are the ones with the best friendship skills. And so if children are struggling with friendship, then they need some help with skills. It's not that there's something wrong with them or that there hasn't been enough magic or serendipity. We can support our kids. But as adults, what we need is to prioritize friendship. Friendship is just so important to our physical and emotional health. And often for women, we think that we should do everything else first, and friendship falls in the cracks. We need to flip that. Friendship is one of the most important things. So that is one of my top tips. Prioritize friendship. Call that friend that you have been meaning to call for 1 month or 6 months and you just haven't got around to it.
I'll do it today.
And the other thing, my other tip is, which came from all of my research and applying it to myself, is that nobody is going to tell you the right words that you're enough. Nobody's going to give you permission to follow your dreams, do the thing that you have always wanted to do, speak up or set and say what you want. We have to do that ourselves. It's in the little decisions that we make every single day to be a little bit more courageous and a little bit more authentic than we were yesterday.
Amazing.
And you wanted three, did you?
I want number three, yes. So the first one was prioritize friendships, give yourself permission. And the third one is,
You know what it is? It's sleep. Absolutely 100% sleep. And this is also for kids. If your child is struggling with academically, struggling with regulating their emotions, struggling with eating, struggling with attention, focus on sleep. Absolutely everything becomes easier if your child is getting enough sleep. And so many children are chronically tired because we don't prioritize sleep. And that is the same for us as adults. The research is becoming more and more compelling that sleep is absolutely fundamental to every aspect of our lives. So we deserve that to prioritize it for our children and for ourselves.
so I'm going to text my friends and go to sleep at 10 p.m. instead of 2 a.m. Good. That's good. Thank you for that reminder. And it just makes sense. What you said just makes sense. It's awesome. And especially about friendships, because as moms, like you said, we try to put everyone first, and we don't live in isolation. We don't raise kids in isolation. It's really healthy to even have someone, like you said, to validate our emotions and call out our emotions too. It's very, very healthy.
And motherhood, it can be so hard and so exhausting at times, and nobody can wound us like our children can. And every time that has happened to me when I've really felt like I've been at the edge, it has been a friend who has taken my hand and gently guided me back to safety. And that is something that I try to do to the women in my life. And if we all did that to each other, I think life and the motherhood journey would be more enjoyable for all of us.
Yes. And where can people find you?
You can find me at kaseyedwards.com, or my books are, in bookstores, on Amazon: Raising Girls Who Like Themselves, Bringing Up Boys Who Like Themselves, and Goodbye Good Girl, Hello Me.
Thank you so much for being here, and thank you for all the wisdom you shared with us. It was wonderful.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you so much for the opportunity to talk to you.
Yes. Amazing.